Welcome to our YouTube channel, a place where the darkest corners of reality come alive through chilling audiobooks. Here, we bring you spine-tingling tales inspired by real crimes, untold mysteries, and the unseen horrors that lurk within society. So, sit back, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for another terrifying journey into the unknown. They say some buildings breathe not with air, but with memories. In the quiet suburbs of Calgary, Alberta, stands a crumbling shell of brick and timber, the old Riverside Schoolhouse. No children run its halls anymore. No teacher calls a roll. And yet, sometimes, the sound of laughter echoes faintly through corridors. It's faint, almost playful, until you realize no one's been inside for decades. The townsfolk call it the Indestructible Schoolhouse, a name born from tragedy, fear, and something no one can fully explain. It began over half a century ago. The school was built in 1924, a proud red brick structure that stood as a symbol of hope for a growing community. The classroom smelled of chalk and polished wood, the kind of scent that clings to nostalgia. Children learned, played, and dreamed within its walls. But one winter afternoon, everything changed. The bell had just rung for the last class of the day. Outside, the world was buried in snow, and a biting wind whispered across the empty playground. Inside, a faulty furnace pipe hissed quietly in the basement, a hiss that would soon become a roar. At 3:42 p.m., smoke began to creep through the hallways. Teachers shouted for the students to get out, and panic filled the air. Amidst the chaos, 3 children, Thomas, Ellie, and Grace, were trapped on the upper floor. No one could reach them in time. When the fire was finally contained, the building was charred black, the hallways twisted by heat. And yet, curiously, much of the structure still stood, stubbornly, eerily intact. It refused to fall, almost as if the building itself resisted death. In the following weeks, the town mourned. The fire was blamed on old wiring, but whispers began. Whispers of strange sounds, of doors creaking open on their own, of children's laughter when no children were near. The school was abandoned, its windows boarded, its name erased from local maps. But the story never truly ended. Decades later, the building remained, half-burned, half-preserved, standing against time and logic. Local teens dared each other to sneak inside at night. Some returned pale and trembling. Others refused to speak of what they saw. One boy, now an old man, still remembers the night vividly. He was 16, armed with a flashlight and bravado. His friends laughed as they pushed the creaky door open. The air inside was thick with the scent of soot and damp wood. The beam of his light cut through the dark, revealing old chalkboards covered in faded arithmetic. Desks scattered as if students had fled mid-lesson. Then the laughter came, high-pitched, joyful, but it wasn't human anymore. It came from the second floor, from the old classroom where the fire had been worst. The boy froze. His flashlight flickered, and then he saw it. The faint silhouette of a child at the end of the hall, her dress swaying gently as if caught in a breeze that didn't exist. When he ran, he swore he felt small hands tugging at his coat. He never returned. None of them did. Over the years, stories piled up. Passers-by claimed they saw a faint light from the windows, even though there was no power. Caretakers hired to secure the property heard footsteps upstairs while standing alone in the dark. Some claimed to have seen chalk writing appear on the boards overnight. Simple words like "play with us" or "we're still here." No one wanted to believe it, but the building had become something more than brick and mortar. It had become alive, or perhaps never stopped being. In 1972, after repeated complaints from the community, the city council decided to demolish the schoolhouse. They wanted to clear the land for housing, erase the memory of what once happened there. The demolition team arrived with heavy machinery and a plan. But from the very first day, things began to go wrong. Workers reported feeling sick, not just tired. Sick. Nausea, migraines, fevers that spiked without explanation. Doctors couldn't find a cause. The symptoms vanished the moment they left the site. Tools went missing. Blueprints were found torn, and strange cold spots appeared even in the summer heat. One worker claimed he saw a child's reflection in a puddle, even though no one was around. Still, they persisted. By the third week, the foreman ordered the crew to bring in a wrecking ball. As the engine started, the operator felt an odd resistance. The machine wouldn't respond. He turned the key again and again, sweat dripping from his neck, but the motor just groaned lifelessly. Frustrated, they towed it back to the repair shop. It started on the first try. No faults, no damage, perfectly fine. When brought back to the site, the engine died once more. That was the moment the foreman decided to take a break. He stood in the cold shadow of the schoolhouse, looking up at the cracked bell tower that somehow had survived every storm. It almost seemed to watch him. By the end of that week, the crew quit one by one. The foreman, a man of reason, simply said, "It doesn't want to fall." The project was abandoned. The school stood tall, surrounded by silence once again. 2 years later, a new contractor took the job. A younger team, skeptical and modern, convinced they could finish what the others couldn't. They brought new machines, new men, and the same old arrogance. The day they began, clouds rolled over Calgary. Thick, heavy, unnatural. By noon, a strange wind howled through the empty halls. One of the workers, Dave, later recalled hearing laughter. Faint at first, then echoing across the courtyard. He thought it was the wind, until he heard the distinct sound of a ball bouncing. Bounce, bounce, bounce. He turned and saw nothing but his own footprints in the dust. Inside, another worker swore he heard a piano playing from the old music room, a melody both cheerful and haunting. When he entered, the piano keys were coated in ash, untouched for decades. The next day, the accidents began. A scaffolding pole slipped loose, narrowly missing a worker's head. A pile of bricks collapsed without warning, and one man, the site electrician, was found unconscious at the base of the stairs, whispering the names Thomas, Ellie, and Grace. No one had told him those names. By the 5th day, the crew refused to work. One man claimed he saw 3 children watching him through a shattered window, smiling, hands pressed against the glass. That night, lightning struck the generator. The power died. The next morning, the wrecking ball arrived again. But before it could swing, the chain snapped and the heavy iron sphere came crashing down, nearly crushing the operator. The site was evacuated immediately, and just like before, the schoolhouse stood untouched, mocking the living. As years passed, legends turned to whispers, whispers into myth. But the building, it was still there. In 1996, a team of paranormal investigators from Vancouver came to document the site. They brought cameras, recorders, temperature gauges, and skepticism. The first night, nothing happened. But by midnight, their equipment began to fail. Batteries drained within minutes. Footage corrupted. Then came the voices. Soft at first, like children talking in the distance. Then distinct. "Teacher, where are you?" A female voice responded, faint, mournful. "Stay together, children." When the team reviewed the tapes later, the voices were there, clear and impossible to explain. One recording captured a chilling sound, the faint crackle of fire, followed by a scream and then silence. They left the next morning, shaken. Their report concluded, "Whatever remains here, it does not rest." Since then, countless explorers, ghost hunters, and journalists have come and gone. Some leave with proof, others leave in fear. One thing, however, remains the same. No one has been able to destroy it. Even after the city fenced it off, even after storms tore through Calgary, half the structure still stands. Roof sagging, windows broken, but walls unyielding. Today, if you drive down the old service road near the Bow River, you'll see it, the half-burned shell of Riverside Schoolhouse, a monument to tragedy, mystery, and something far older than science can explain. On quiet nights, when the wind is still, locals swear they can hear the faint ring of a school bell. Sometimes, a shadow moves across a broken window. Sometimes, laughter dances through the empty halls. Light, innocent, eternal. It's as if the children never left. Some say the fire trapped their souls, binding them to the place where they once felt safe. Others believe the school itself became their guardian, refusing to fall so that their memory could live on. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. No one has dared to try demolition again. And so it stands, a relic of the past, a scar that will never heal, a house of echoes, where the laughter of the lost still drifts through the dark. As the sun sets over Calgary, the shadows lengthen across its walls, and for a brief, haunting moment, the old schoolhouse seems alive again, breathing, watching, waiting. Because some buildings don't die. They remember, they mourn, and sometimes they refuse to let go.